Welcome to Upper Pylon 2. Our mission is to provide you with... Welcome to Upper Pylon 2. Our mission is to provide you with an in-depth review of every episode of Deep Space Nine in the order they were broadcast. Tonight's episode is Looking for Parmok in All the Wrong Places. And this is Chris in South Carolina.
And this is Blair from Ontario, Canada.
This is Matt in Buffalo.
And this is Matt from Arizona, and you are cleared for docking. We're all back together again, finally. It's good to be off of school, Blair. It's good to have you back from your week off. And it's good that, given some of the crazy weeks that we've had this week, we're talking about a relatively light, fun episode this week, and that would be Looking for Parmok in All the Wrong Places. So let's get to it. Short synopsis. Quark's ex-wife shows up, and Quark realizes how utterly bonkers he was for letting her go. He decides to pursue her with Worf's help, of course. This is the third episode of Season 5, and it was first aired on September 30th, 1996. It was written by Ronald D. Moore and directed by Garrick himself, Andrew Robinson. Guest stars this week include Rosalind Chow as Keiko O'Brien, Mary Kay Adams as Grilka, Joseph Ruskin as Tumek, Phil Morris as Thopak, and unknown performer as the Bolian Schlub. Well, reading those notes, it has to be a Chris episode. So, Chris, whenever you're ready, take us into Looking for Parmok in All the Wrong Places.
Certainly, I would love to. So the O'Briens are in a bit of a spate. Quark rolls up on Julian, eavesdropping, and messes with him. Apparently, Miles is being domineering. Then Keiko shows up, much to the confusion of Julian, and plays the voice of reason in the argument between Kira and her husband. Meanwhile, Grilka, Quark's ex-wife, shows up to Deep Space Nine, and while her intentions are unknown, Worf is smitten as soon as he sees her Klingon beauty. Dax makes sure to let him know that she's Quark's ex-wife. And we break to opening credits. Dun dun dun. Dun 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 dun.
So this is going to be a running theme through Deep Space Nine here on out. But I think this is kind of my first instance of we're getting away from the Dominion story. It's not the war yet, but we have two very fun overarching storylines episodes for the first 2 weeks, and then we get a comedy episode. And it's like, you never know where these are great to fit in, but we had some good momentum, and this is just like, oh, come on. I wish we were going down that fun path still.
But last week was so heavy, or it was trying to be heavy.
And next week will be heavy as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's no winning when you have these types of stories that you want to work in, but it's just this is the first time where it's like this is the baseball episode to a much less degree.
I really like the baseball. See, that's the thing is like you're screwed wherever you place these episodes, but I think the question should really be, how good is the episode itself? I mean, we can't change the placement.
Right, and that's strictly what I'm talking about. Yeah, the baseball episode I like a lot too, or I think I remember liking. But it's just, when you have so many stories, you have all these extra ones that aren't in the main arc, and it's tricky.
It's tricky, but what I like about stories like this and the baseball episode is it lets the characters come out and shine for a little bit. I mean, not that they can't shine in the middle of action, and they often do, but like when things are quieter, we get little smaller moments that can mean a lot. And obviously we're starting a big story arc here in the fact that this is where, Worf and Dax finally consummate their relationship.
Yeah, I would argue that even though this is a light, fun episode, and Matt might be saying, oh, why is this got to come after these pretty heavy episodes? I was ready for this. I felt the weight of those last two episodes, and I was like, man, I just want a good stay on the Deep Space Nine chill episode where I get to hang out with the characters a little bit and not have to worry too much about who's fighting who and what war is going on for a minute.
And before next week too, when we go into next week is essentially a Vietnam parable. So,
which I like all of those things as well. And I mean, those are the things that make me really think, but I just needed a week off,
Right.
So this is a nice little bit of fluff to get us through to the next.
And I think what I like about this episode too is usually these are the episodes where we stick in a Ferengi episode and it is comedy. And granted, this is a Ferengi episode, but everyone else plays a comedic role throughout the episode as well, from Julian to Worf and Dax to Miles and Kira. So I think really the only one were probably Odo and Cisco that did not really partake in any of the comedy bits.
No, I think Odo
did a little
definitely
bit.
did. Yes, he did.
That's true. That's right, in his office. You're right.
And
so Cisco did.
Cisco kind of did too, because right after the credits, when Dax says you have a serious case of Parmark, he goes, "Is that contagious?"
Yeah, and it's a great little it's a great staging of the scene that we'll talk about when we get there. In fact, why don't we just go ahead and dig in here, since that's kind of where we're moving anyway. So Groka comes to Quark and conveniently mentions that her great house, the House of Groka, has suffered significant financial losses of late because of the Klingon Federation war. But she doesn't ask for help, for Klingons do not dirty themselves with filthy ledgers and bank accounts. Taking the hint, Quark asks to look at her financial records and agrees to help her. She agrees, but an angry Klingon threatens Quark as we switch to the next scene. Worf and Dax discuss the Groka-Quark relationship. Dax claims Worf has Parmok. Cisco interrupts and chuckles at the idea of Worf in aggressive love. So this is what you brought up there, Matt. And I love the staging of this scene with him tossing Dax the baseball like he's done this a million times as he walks out of his little room and kind of does a little one-liner.
Yeah, day-to-day life on the station.
Nice bit of thing there. I liked it. All right, so let's keep going here to the first clip. Worf and Dax. Meanwhile, in the infirmary, Miles O'Brien is collecting medicine to ease Kira Neresa's pregnancy, and this will be our very first clip.
This should alleviate Kira's sneezing. Should. Been sneezing their way through pregnancy for over 100,000 years. Can't expect them to cure it overnight. I heard a rumor that Jerry's might be trying to cross the channel this evening. Maybe we should have a surprise waiting for them. Serves you right.
I can't go to the holosuite tonight. Kira and I have some things to work out.
Oh, I'm still fighting here.
Who says we're fighting?
Well, it's around. It's a small station.
It's a huge station.
Obviously not huge enough.
But for your information, we are not fighting.
Glad to hear it. For Jordan Takeo House, for Kira's swollen ankles, she'll need to dissolve them in some kind of fruit juice before ingesting them.
I hope they taste better than those Macara herbs you gave her.
Are you sampling all her medications?
No. Kira didn't like the taste. Oh, by the way, I almost forgot. She has a rash on the back of her thighs. Do you have a salve or something?
How long has she had it?
Well, I noticed it yesterday when I was helping her out of the bathtub, so she's had it at least a day.
Helping her out of the tub?
She's living in my house. She's having my baby.
So, did you look?
What? Oh, please. A towel up in front of her.
How does Keiko feel about you helping Kira out of the tub?
Keiko feels fine about it. You see, we are adults. We developed a close, mature relationship.
I'm sure that Keiko and Kira have. But you...
What about me?
I bet you looked.
And this may be a Ferengi episode, but man, is this my favorite part of this episode. This allows for some uncomfortable hilarity. This is my kind of comedy right here.
And I wasn't on for this episode, but a couple weeks back, they kind of did a meta joke in Apocalypse Rising where Bashir and Kira have a scene together where she accuses it of it being her fault.
Yep.
Because this is his baby in real life. Alexander Siddig and the now visitor are married, and it's his child at this point. So I kind of wonder if this was another stab at meta humor, like, you know, this is in real life Alexander Siddig's wife, and he's talking to some other dude about out of the bathtub and be all close and intimate with her.
I love this scene. I just I'm with you, Chris. I think it was funny, and I think the way I read it, I honestly don't think at this point Chief O'Brien has any sexual desire or any inkling. He just sees this as someone he has to take care of, and he looks pretty incredulous that, you know, Bashir's given him the gears, because I honestly don't think at this point it means
I would
anything
respectfully
to him.
disagree with you.
Oh
I would
yeah,
respectfully disagree with you. I think that he doth protest too much. He's not looking at. He definitely looked at her, and I mean,
I didn't say he
we've all
didn't
seen
look at
Kira.
her.
We've all
But
seen Kira. She's a beautiful woman. I don't know that very many people could look and not have that little thought in the back of their head. Now, that I don't think he would have ever acted on it. I think he would have held that in the back of his head, but I think it was there even at this point, especially if he's helping her get out of the bath. That's like a ridiculous concept, but
I got a whole bunch of thoughts coming out of this now. But to Matt's point,
please.
the meta stuff, yeah, the other extra meta part I liked was him saying, no, we're adults. And that's kind of, I think, a callback to just how goofy and mature Bashir has been traditionally. But I'll take a little bit of an argument with, like, were they developing a sexual relationship? I think that's where this is a very interesting adult thing, is that they weren't connecting sexually. They're connecting emotionally in a weird situation where they never really, I didn't think they ever went that sexual route, or if that was even really ever even implied.
Well, because
so I kind of believe him here that he didn't have a peak, because he ended up connecting with her on some weird other level. You can see them start to open up with each other.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a strange thing. I mean, this never happens in real life, obviously, because we haven't. Well, maybe it does with transferring of surrogacy, but we've never had
Emotionally connecting to somebody. Will the
yeah.
the
No,
mechanism's goofy.
No, but I'm talking. Yeah, the mechanism is different. But what I'm saying is like it's a very unusual situation where someone else is having this couple's baby. So I mean, I'm going to argue that connect later. I've never got this sexual tension off of them. It's just this like weird intimacy that's created by very unusual circumstances, but it's not played to me like they're ready to jump on each other.
Right. This is, I think, extremely real in that you hear the term emotionally cheating on your partner. And I think it's very frequent. It happens at work where you're just with somebody a lot in a work environment and you get to know them more and more and more. And you end up connecting with them on some weird level. That's beyond just professional. And this is what I think we saw here. He ended up having to be with her for extended periods of time and went past a certain threshold somewhere where he realized, oh, we went too far. We were starting to connect with each other. That, you know, taken out to its logical conclusions may end up being a sexual thing, but I don't think they ever were too close to that point.
I think that.
Sorry, go ahead, Chris.
I think you guys are right. I don't disagree that this is definitely the emotional part of it. That they're definitely in the first throngs of love, so to speak. But they don't go to that very romantic place for a reason, and I think it's because of what you said there at the end there, Smosky, of the logical conclusion of it all. So,
right. But at this point, to get to the
somewhere
actual nugget in the scene, I think that he is probably fairly honest because he hasn't crossed that line yet, and he is just being nice to her or whatever, and then they start crossing over with the massage scene is, I think, where we really see it crosses that Rubicon kind of
right.
I think too, just that whole, as you mentioned, Smonsky, about the employment thing and people at work. You know, I work with my partner 12 hours a day at work, and I call him my work partner. You know, and we spend more time together. We spend 12-hour days, 12-hour nights, and you know, for us, it's you get to know the person, you get to know about their family, you get to know about all their, their successes, their troubles, and that, because you're sitting with them for hours upon hours. And granted, my partner's a guy, we just have become very close friends. However, I've seen it too, where if you have a female partner, I have seen it where maybe things go offside that way, just because you start relating more to your partner at work, and you come home and your spouse doesn't necessarily understand all the things you just went through. And there's a reason why police officers have a high, or emergency services workers have a high divorce rate as well. So but I just think here, I 100% think it's just, it forms into an emotional attachment. And because he cares, he's living, or she's living with him, for crying out loud. And he wants to make sure she's taken care of. So
Right. And it's like, to your point there, I mean, who else are you going to talk to and complain about, not that we, or Miles for that matter, would have anything to complain about their marriage partner, but that's the type of person that you would end up complaining to, the work friend, and that, because you're just with them forever. And you can figure out the direction these things can end up going. And because of that, this story is an incredibly realistic depiction of stuff. I think, yeah, the pregnancy angle's a little goofy, but the actual interpersonal character stuff that comes out of it, it's like, ooh, that's real life. That's not science fiction. That's what happens if you put two people together for extended periods of time.
and not to mention too, that just without her even being pregnant, they have gone on missions together. Their lives have been in danger together. They rely on each other to keep each other safe and alive, just in the normal duties of their job. And you form a close relationship with your colleagues too, when you depend on them.
Not only just that, but they are probably two very kindred spirits in, the grizzled soldier characters.
Yeah, I was going to say they're also, and even their personalities are similar. They're both, to a certain extent, no nonsense kind of people. That's why they've always gotten along very well.
And the thing I like too, Miles O'Brien is my favorite character, but you wouldn't say Miles O'Brien is a stunning, good-looking man type thing.
Oh, he's a stud. Come on.
How dare you?
He is an average guy like all of us, and Kira obviously is a beautiful woman, but it's nice to see that it doesn't matter what your looks are. The emotional attachment forms beyond that. So
I'm a living example of that.
You are a handsome man, Chris.
I'm not. But my wife is drop dead gorgeous, and people remind me of that daily. How did you end up with?
It's the Hawaiian shirts.
It's definitely the Hawaiian shirts. The giant red beard. Something. Let's move on, guys. We've spent a long time, and we're barely out of Act 1. So later, in Quark's bar, Worf puts on a display to get Groka's attention. That includes throwing Morn out of his seat, after first apologizing in advance to Morn, of course, and insulting her guard, Thopak. Tumek pulls Worf aside and informs him that Groka not really interested in the advances of a traitor to the Empire. Worf, of course, leaves angrily. He also doesn't like...
I really like that dude, the older guy.
He seems like the most coherent Klingon we've ever met.
And he was actually a guest star in the original series. I looked him up.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
And so was the other one. Both of them were they not?
No, the younger Klingon was yes, technically he was, but you also remember him from he's the cadet that's at the beginning of Star Trek 3 that asks Kirk if there's going to be a ceremony when they get back. Kirk kind of brushes him off, and he also will play I believe he'll also play the Jem'Hadar first in that one episode where they're both stranded on the planet.
And he also plays in Voyager as well.
The guy, the Mars pilot.
Yeah, the Mars pilot. But he also played the kid in TOS.
Yeah, in Miri. I forgot about that.
Yeah. Phil Morris, I like him. And he actually was up for the role of Captain Sisko when the show first started.
But the other Klingon, the older Klingon, was from not one of my favorite episodes, but he was on the original series. He was on in Gamesters of Triskelion, the one where Chekhov,
yeah.
Uhura, and Kirk are kidnapped and forced to fight for those 3 brains for Quatlus and all that stuff.
And which character was he?
I think he was the main dude.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I can remember his face now through that makeup, man.
But
oh, yeah, sorry, before we go on, because this episode is just the let's ratchet up the Klingons to the eye-rolling degree. And I get that's the point of the episode. But to have a guy in here who is not the growling, constant stereotype Klingons, just refreshing in an episode where it's all about the caricature that is the Klingons. So yes,
I felt like this wasn't as bad as the episode we did a few weeks ago as far as the caricature. But it was being played for laughs, so I mean, I guess it would be more a caricature in that sense.
No, I mean, if you think about it, I mean, it is. It's the big rack of lamb or whatever, whip it around. Their sex is just all scratching and punching each other. It's goofy.
Choking each other.
But they're in it for the comedy, and it all depends on people's personal taste. Me personally, I like it when they commit to being over the top with the Klingons and with the Ferengi, quite frankly. So it's something that if you commit to it, I think it's funny.
Well, we're going to commit to getting to our next clip, if you guys don't mind. So Dax and Worf discuss Worf's plight. Dax delivers some words of wisdom, which she has become really great at in the last couple seasons. Quark comes in and requests that Dax help him, in fact, with his Klingon manners. Worf at first remains painfully aloof as Jadzia coaches Quark, but then he surprisingly offers him some insight. Meanwhile, Miles is massaging Kira in our next clip.
Did your father just sit you down one day and say, "All right, Miles, it's time to teach you about massaging pregnant women"?
It's an O'Brien survival technique. My mother hated being pregnant. My father's massages were the only things that kept her from killing everyone.
Sounds like me.
Pretty much. She didn't swear or majorum, but she did like to use what she called descriptive phrases.
Are those my uniforms?
Garrick finished the alterations and he sent these along. He guarantees the insoles will help your feet.
Ow, ow, ow.
That wasn't very convincing. I think she's actually enjoying it, Miles. You better press harder if you want her to suffer.
Harder it is.
Ow, ooh. You are a sadist, Miles Edward O'Brien. Ow. Was your father this cruel to your mother?
Worse. I swear sometimes you'd hear her screams halfway across Ireland. The neighbours didn't know whether to be worried or titillated.
You miss Ireland?
You know, if you'd asked me that a year ago, I would have said no. But lately, I don't know why. Daydreaming about home. Like I'm getting nostalgic in my old age.
You got leave coming. Take 3 weeks and go.
If I left, I'd give you foot massages.
Take me along. I can think of worse things than spending 3 weeks in Ireland with you.
Me too.
Kisses.
Yeah, I mean, that's the point where they went a little bit too far.
But they realized it. And we're going to keep going with the notes unless anybody else has anything else to say.
I surely have something
Tons
to say.
Let's
No,
go.
well, not tons. But guys, if Keiko was half the insufferable, shrew, shrill, harpy, bitch,
So
whatever
true.
you want to call her,
Preach.
Well, she will be. She will be later in this episode.
man.
Oh no, that is
I'll
not fair.
defend that. No, it's not fair. But wouldn't this be a great point for her to go, Miles Edward O'Brien, why? How dare you put your hands on another woman? I'm shrill. I'm a bitch. Blah, 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 blah. No, she is great.
No, I mean,
People
she's
pick
fine.
and choose, and then they
She's
ignore when
fine
she's
here.
good.
She becomes Harpy later in this episode.
She becomes Harpy, but again, I will defend this because we've talked about this when this story came up originally, and we discussed whether it made sense with her and O'Brien insisting on bringing her in. And I went to talk to my wife, who just got over a bout of pregnancy, and she
like it was a disease.
there was a parasite involved, but and my wife was like, yeah, I can see that. She enjoyed having a pregnancy and I mean, it's a tough thing to like truly wrap your head around, but the best you could do, yeah, you'd kind of understand how you would want to be with her, like around your baby in that point. And I think her lashing out, or if we even want to go that far, and I'm not even wanting to say that truly, I think it's just an extension over that, and I can completely understand it that you are letting our baby go away from us.
I'm not saying it's unjustified. I'm just saying she becomes shrill again.
I just find it a little hard. I don't know, like, and I wasn't on for that episode, but did you guys discuss about, or have we discussed, Keiko would just be jealous that she no longer is carrying her baby and that another woman has it? And here is Kira getting all the massages where she should be getting the massages and the pampering and the taking care of.
No, but
I'm okay with this, but it just seems a little.
No, but if you go back and watch that episode where they convince her to move in, it's mostly Keiko who's doing the, like, yeah, come live with us sort of thing. Like it's Keiko more than Miles.
Yeah, because she wants to make sure that Kira is living properly and not abusing herself while she's carrying her baby.
But then
I'm just talking more of the jealousy level of another woman's carrying my baby.
But the thing is that, I mean, if you're bringing that woman in to live with you, the idea is that you're doing that to take care of her and supervise her and make sure that she's seen after. So, I mean, I have a feeling that, I may not like Keiko all 100% of the time, but I know she's not a dummy. And I think that she would have known that this would have come along with all these extra needs.
Right. And we didn't really address it so much as jealousy or that. And I don't think it's even fair for them to say that they're bringing her in to watch her, in that they don't trust her and that she would do anything.
That's not what I meant. I just mean,
no, I know, but to Blair's point, that they only brought her in because they felt like they were abandoning their child. And I think they can kind of realize that this is not a logical thing, and how it's not easy to express why they felt they would be abandoning their kid doing this. Obviously, he would be in good hands later on with Kira, but they felt they had to still be there and feel more connected to the child in some weird, just primitive back of your mind.
And I'm okay with that, and I totally agree. And again, she's a single person, is going to need some help. I'm perfectly okay with them bringing her in. I just don't recall seeing any sort of, I don't know, like your wife would be a little upset if, another woman, like whatever, right?
Well, I think here's my theory on that.
Sure.
Keiko just doesn't care, because she still got her Bajoran dude down on the planet. So she's like, whatever. Let him find another woman. Please, Kira, take him off my hands.
But either way, I still like that scene, and I kind of do like, again, this is a fun episode. I love the fact that it just looks like Keiko's completely oblivious to everything that's going on, and I think it's kind of amusing that she's just giving him crap for not helping her. And
I don't know that she's oblivious. I think that she's just implicitly trusts her husband.
Yes, that's
true.
That's where it's at.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, but it's playing with dramatic.
Rightfully so. Look at that. Did you see the last clip? Rightfully so.
Rightfully so, because he realized.
They do the right thing, though. They choose the right.
They do the right thing, and they do have the wherewithal to realize, hey, this is getting a little weird, and we're not gonna do this.
Oh, I
mean,
know.
And even later when they go on the runabout together, or they're on the runabout together, neither of them commits infidelity in any sort of way. So like they at least
Almost.
no, but like they never really tempted.
Yeah.
I mean, they have the emotional knowledge to not go there. So even though like the circumstances are emotionally inflating those sort of feelings.
Another place, another time, it could have been different. Keiko stays on the planet. She gets whatever. Yeah. I don't know. I think there could have been that last scene, and I know we'll get to it later. I think, Smonsky, if you went home to your wife and said, I work with a coworker, and you know what? If you weren't around, just maybe.
Except that's Blair, you're forcing us into the conversation at the last scene of the episode. But
all right, let's save it.
That line, I think that's a little bit of a blow off line to each other, and that, okay, here's a weird situation we're in. How do we get out of this conversation? And you go, well, we don't want to hurt each other's feelings. Yeah, you know what? It would have been cool. Yeah. And then you just go away, and then, hey, never talk about this again, right? Right. And then you just leave the room. I don't think there was anything really to that line.
Go ask your wife. Put it on pause.
Oh, yeah. Actually, it would be me going up, waking her up, and, hey, there's a question that came up on the podcast. This girl...
Fully hypothetical. Really hypothetical.
Yeah, just asking for a friend.
All right. So alone on the bridge of the Defiant, Worf indulges in some Klingon opera. Quark disrupts his privacy and proceeds to describe how his night with Groka went. Worf is strangely accepting of the Ferengi's intrusion, and it slowly becomes apparent that Cyrano de Worferac is living vicariously through Quark's associations with Groka.
We all need to appreciate that weird name you just threw out there. Very good. But also, he's accepting of Quark being there, because clearly last week we've established that Quark has top secret clearance and just can stroll onto the Defiant anytime and be privy to top secret information.
Quark does whatever the hell he wants at all times. All right, so
how cool, can I just say though, how cool would it be? How cool would it be to have like a ship to yourself like that, where you could just play the stereo as loud as you want it to be?
Oh, he's running laps in the corridors naked.
I mean, wouldn't you? If you had the Defiant all to yourself and no one's going to use it unless it's like on duty?
Absolutely.
With the sash on, though, right?
Yeah, but the old school golden one.
Yeah.
It's less chafy.
All right, so with Jadzia, Quark's education in Klingon courtship continues in the Hollow Suites. Meanwhile, Odo is upset with Miles about Upper Pylon 3. The damn thing's still not fixed. Kira, of course, takes up for her new boyfriend. Odo hassles her about falling for him. She, of course, denies it. And we end that very uncomfortable scene.
Uncomfortable. That's one way to put it.
That's where the comedy comes in. It's totally uncomfortable.
I laughed. I liked how becoming solid made Odo even snarkier.
I like it. Oh, it's Miles now, not the chief, or that's hilarious.
The facial acting that he gives, even through that makeup, was funny.
Mm-hmm.
So he may not have been a big part of this episode, but I like the scene that Rene Auberjonois was in this week.
So, after participating in a holosuite simulation with him, Groka points out to Quark that he has just acted out one of the most romantic of Klingon operas, and she pointedly and somewhat suspiciously asks him, "So what are your thoughts, Quark? Why do you pursue me?" His answer, that she is the object of great value, and she may be worth all the latinum in the quadrant. This, for some reason, cinches it for him.
Because for some reason, like, I like how they started off with, like, she was kind of like not feeling it because it was too much like a Ferengi, but somehow he turned a Ferengi sort of proclamation into sounding something like a Klingon one. So he
is a silver-tongued devil. That is what this episode proves.
But one of my like I love the scene too where the rehearsal scenes are great with Dax and Worf in the holosuite with Quark, and just Quark trying and failing to get through the Klingon words.
I have a confession. It might as well be now. I never liked Worf going into Deep Space Nine. First time watching through, and every time before that, I never really still liked Worf all that much. I was really hoping that I would like him on this UP2 rewatch. I really don't give a crap about Worf. I'm going to throw it out there. I don't like his character at any point during Star Trek.
Oh,
And it's still
sacrilege.
to this point. I know.
I love Worf. I
mean,
still like him.
I like Worf, but I like him better here than on Next Generation.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
I like Worf, but I like him better in the last seasons of TNG than I like him here. I feel like I liked him the first time I watched through this, but rewatching it really closely, man, does he come off like a teenager. And I kind of hate how they write out, like in this thing, he's like, "Have you ever been in love with a Klingon woman?" No. But wait, yeah, you have. You had a baby with one.
A
You
half
forgot about
Klingon.
half Klingon. Yeah,
Yeah, but still, she's a Klingon.
Technicality. Yeah. That,
She was
that stuck out with me too.
But she was a Klingon who didn't like Klingon things.
exactly. She wasn't a true Klingon woman who had all the rituals and
She
whatnot.
was a B'Elanna precursor.
Okay, well, this one, sure. But, when he swears he has no family in the current episode,
Yeah.
good luck. Good
We're not talking
luck
about
trying to talk out of that one.
We're not talking about the current episode.
What we're talking about is Worf and a good character.
He's so screaming.
I think he's less screamy here in Deep Space Nine for me, especially when they pair him with Dax, which starts in this episode, and later. I mean, he's in some really good episodes this season, like the two-parter that we're going to get to towards the end of summer.
See, I haven't seen those. I haven't liked him so far, is what I'm saying. And I kind of remember liking him. So that's probably from those episodes that you're bringing up now.
It's really like season 5 onwards. I'll tell you this: once they change uniforms, Worf gets better.
All right, well, they'll be
My
the
fingers
next
are crossed because
threshold.
I actually like Worf. I like
Me too.
Worf.
No, but
And,
I like Worf too. But what I'm saying is, on Deep Space Nine, his material on Deep Space Nine gets better once they switch uniforms later this season.
Cool. Well, I'm looking forward to it. Right now, Serrano to Warfarak is really annoying me. But Quark is not annoying me. And he and Grilka are in love. And all seems well until Thopak, Grilka's bodyguard, becomes fed up with this whole offensive romance and declares that he can't work for a house where a Ferengi is welcome. So he challenges Quark to mortal combat. Mortal combat. Sorry.
So, did they just not tell Cisco that they're going to have a battle to the death on the station? Because I think he might look poorly on this if he knew.
Yeah, but it's Quark.
I see. Touche.
I mean, and Matt, how many times have you insisted that Quark needed to be reprimanded in some way for almost getting them killed from week to week? So maybe this is Cisco just cashing in, looking the other way.
That's season 1, and you know of how Starfleet works. I mean, Garrick's out, and he tried to commit genocide. So, trying to kill a couple Starfleet officers in season 1. I mean, time served.
Well, isn't he still in the brig at this point, or have we?
No, they actually name drop him. Somebody got some clothes, and it got fixed earlier in the episode.
Yeah. I just thought maybe they let him out so he could direct the episode, and then
summer hiatus, which was only a few weeks.
True.
So
No, but you know what? That's a good point. They just kind of fluffed over it, and not even a line from Odo. Like this would have been a situation where Odo probably could have came and gave Quark the gears about what he's about to do.
Right.
No acknowledgement, but
it's more realistic, but at the same time, you have to ask yourself the question: do we want another scene with that? I don't. I would rather just see him trying to figure out how he's going to do it.
Yeah. No. True enough.
I'd trade a couple Klingon-y scenes, but that's me. not a fan of Klingons.
I was about to say the Klingon hater.
I know.
That's right.
Even though they get
Klingon.
even though they're at their best in this series.
Yes, but again, low bar.
Wow.
It is. It is.
Well, then you better. I mean, I'm just saying, you better buckle up by the time Discovery gets here, because clearly they're going to be a big part of that.
But they look like they could be totally different.
Guys,
I mean, makeup aside, but
not excited about the Klingons. I'm excited about everything else from that trailer. Not excited about the Klingons. Let's keep going though. That's not what we're talking about right now.
I'd rather be. But go on, Chris.
Man, really giving away your thoughts there. Later, Kira announces to Keiko and Miles that she's going to Bajor for a few days to relax in her friend's cabin. Miles is pleased, but Keiko is shocked by this news because she's worried that Kira will go into labor. Kira assures her that Julian says that's nowhere near, but Keiko demands Miles go with her, and when he refuses, Keiko accuses them of fighting again and settles the debate for them. Miles and Kira will go to Bajor together. Done.
So
Hanson,
there's the Harpy scene this week.
It's Harpy, but it's also her thinking that they are fighting again, and it's her in a moment going, will you two stop your effing fighting and just go there for the good of the baby? And sometimes somebody has to kind of snap on somebody. I just don't think it's that bad. It just isn't.
I just wish whenever she gets into an argument, she doesn't get whiny. She whines way too much, and when she's trying to make a point.
Oh, see, I didn't take it as whining, but yeah.
I'll have nice things to say about her in a couple of weeks when she gets possessed by a paw wraith.
She's not whiny there.
No, she's actually that's probably her best performance. I'm not even kidding.
Well, just like on TNG, didn't she get taken over too?
No, she never did.
Oh, I can't remember. Yeah.
O'Brien got taken over, and she got trapped in 10 forward with him.
Yes.
All right, well, Quark is now faced with the prospect of either losing Grilka or dying, for he still doesn't stand a chance against a Klingon with a bat'leth. Worf again decides he's going to help the Ferengi. They use this special device that we've never seen before and we'll never see again, and it allows Worf to control Quark's body movements. And somehow help him defend himself even though he can't see anything.
Spock's brain, yeah. This is just.
Did they use this? Is this exactly from Spock's brain?
Well, no, but you could argue that it's an extension of the technology,
right? And
I just wonder how he saw it going on in the room. Did it take over?
Yeah, they got the game, the vision things that shoot into his eyes. That all happened, I'm sure.
Man, it was crazy. I love the scene though. If I'm honest,
I like that they I feel like a puppet and I got some complaints for the man with the strings.
Well, if you were in better shape, that's a great line from Worf actually. So as Quark leaves to get a good night's rest, Dax challenges Worf to consider the other options of who might be interested in him. Hint, 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 hint. You big lug.
Well, that's the thing with Worf this episode is if you want to get annoyed with him, Dax is just throwing herself at him at this point.
Oh, she wants him bad.
I mean, and he's not picking it up on it. And I'm sorry, even as someone who's gay, when someone like Terry Farrell throws themselves at you, I mean, pay attention, dude.
I'm more of a Kira man myself, but that's beside the point.
I'll take Worf's place, no problem. You can have Miles's place.
So the battle is on the next day. Quark is in full regalia and he takes up his bat'leth. He and Worf go to town. Hilarity and action ensue, but in the end, Quark takes the bat'leth of his enemy and hands it to Grilka, proving his courage and sealing the deal. Grilka
now my biggest laugh of this episode. Are you going to finish, or do you want me to talk?
Go, please, go.
I said my biggest laugh of this episode is the Ferengi rite of proclamation.
Oh yeah. No, that whole thing is great. And as he's meandering on,
kicks back in,
switching back and forth, it's great. And then as soon as it kicks back in, he doesn't even finish his sentence. That's what I love the most.
Well,
he's
it's
just I suppose
that's.
Well, I guess we're going to go back to war.
I guess that's enough talking.
No, the funniest single moment was when he got recontrolled, turns to go fight, and then looks back over his shoulder and goes, "Now back to fighting."
Right.
That's the funniest part of the episode.
Well, that was good. And
Great.
And I do like, because it's absolutely true, I do love Dax calling out Worf for being a showboat.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
good
yeah.
too.
Because he's flipping the thing around and doing the whole.
A lot of twirly crap.
A lot of unnecessary flourishes. So Grilka tells Thopak that his honor is satisfied, and she clears the room and begins her mating ritual with Quark, leaving Worf and Dax alone. So finally, Dax challenges Worf to her own little quarrel, and they begin the mating.
I take it back. One of the funniest parts of this episode, there's a lot of funny parts, but one of the funniest is still coming up, where everybody gets to sick bay.
Yeah, that is pretty good too. And Bashir's reaction, I think that's classic.
Yeah. About this time, Kira and Miles are meeting in a runabout to depart for their trip to Bajor. Our final clip.
So I guess we're going.
Looks like it.
Tell me about this house we're going to.
It's a gorgeous cottage filled with antiques, sitting in the middle of a deep, dark forest. It's got 3 fireplaces, 2 balconies.
I see.
It's 20 kilometers from the nearest neighbor, 30 to the nearest town.
Why am I not surprised?
I think it's worse. There's a view
Of what?
of the Halana River. You could see it from every room.
We'll
in
have
the
to talk
house.
about this, but this is funny. The fact that they're
At
treating
night, when
this
the stars
gorgeous
are out,
locale is like, oh,
only
it gets
for
worse. This is
water.
terrible.
Yeah.
One of the most romantic spots in all of Bajor.
That's it. I'm not going. I don't care what Keiko says. I'm not going. You go. I'll wait an hour, and then I'll tell her that you left without me. That there was a miscommunication about the departure time.
You think she'll buy it?
She'll probably accuse us of having another fight and behaving like children, but I can handle that. The important thing is that we don't go anywhere near that place together.
You are absolutely right. In fact, I'm going to go to the capital and see Shakar.
That's the best idea you've had all week. Have a good trip.
Thanks.
Would have been nice.
In another life.
Let's not even think about it.
It's not. Miles,
It's nice.
get out.
So in the midst of this comedy episode, this scene is probably the most real thing that happens. Be completely well written, really well acted, and I like of this is inappropriate. We need to move on. Appreciate that. If you make a commitment to one person, if not, then do whatever y'all agree on. This was good to me, and I thought it represented some goodness in the midst of kind of a crazy situation.
Yeah, and what I like about it too is that it fits in with the episode and that it's metered with comedy, because just the verbal irony of like they're talking about this gorgeous place that they're going to with like all this dread and like, oh, it gets worse.
It's the worst.
Too.
Oh, so beautiful, so bad.
And it is fun that they ended on the comedy of that, because the first scene of Miles and Bashir notwithstanding, every other scene I did not think was funny. I think Chris was saying that it was just from like the uncomfortable angle, but I didn't even really pick it up as comedic from that. They were just very kind of real personality and character, real human stuff there. So I like that they ended it on a more comedic scene when they started to realize
can't tell
this
me
is going this way.
You can't tell me that the when my dad would do this to my mom, the neighbors couldn't tell if it was scary or titillating. Line is a little bit funny.
That's
I
more.
got
It's
to
a
agree
little
with
bit
Chris.
funny.
I think the previous scenes are funny, and I think too that if we look at this episode, this was technically the B plot, and we picked 3 clips tonight. All the clips came from the B plot, and
Well, that was Chris because that's a plot he was probably focused on. But I think,
but still, it was good though. Not very often we can take 3 solid clips from a B plot, and still be good with it.
When the A plot's all screamy Klingon stuff, of course you want to focus on
I
the B
wasn't gonna
stuff.
pull those clips.
yeah, but let's not act like the A plot wasn't fun either. I know.
No,
No.
It was funny. It was good. I just think you guys are right that this is real. I like how they did this. And at the end of the day, I really enjoyed the fact that, as has been mentioned already, these are adults, and as you just said it, Chris, you can choose what you want to do here. You can choose, to go down that path that you will regret, or you can choose to be stick with your commitment, and that almost goes back to that whole O'Brien is the everyman guy, the good guy, the guy that tries to do the right thing, and in some ways you can almost argue O'Brien was tortured in this episode as well too. So,
boy, you're right. Boy. But they say it right at the beginning in that Bashir scene. He's an adult. We're adults, and they made the very grown-up decision here.
But keep in mind, a lot of adults don't make grown-up decisions in the room.
Well, yeah,
they make bad decisions, and because if he went down that route, our next episode would be him on Maury Povich or whatever.
Maury Povich.
He is the father, of your baby.
No, he's not. And no, anyway, sorry.
But the thing is, like we said earlier, they're both adults, and I think the other clincher is that they're both pragmatists. So they're not going to beat around the bush with this sort of thing.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, it's all good. To go back to the B plot discussion and why I pulled the clips from the B plot is because a lot of the A plot was physical comedy. I thought about pulling the Jadzia Worf clip there where they have the little short conversation, but then it's just all grunting afterwards, and that's the real funny part. It's not so the writing in these scenes I felt like was superior. The comedy's a little more nuanced and layered in the writing, whereas the comedy in that stuff is a lot with the physicality and the ridiculous noises that they make. So I think that the B plot just had better writing as far as for clips for an audio only podcast.
I would say that would have made a good audio thing is like I said, is Quark's ad-libbing his right of proclamation.
Yeah, I could have gone with that, but at that point I already had my theme, and yeah. Anyway, we're moving on. We're going to finish this episode off tonight sometime. So, finally, when the two couples, Quark and Grilka and Dax and Worf, finally go to the infirmary with broken bones and bruises aplenty, it is enough to convince Dr. Bashir that how his patients receive these particular wounds anymore. In a private room in the infirmary, Dax and Worf talk about what happened. Worf understands that Dax is unlikely to rush into marriage, even though that's what Klingons would traditionally do. But they do agree, however, that they ought to pursue their relationship further. Worf is uncomfortable being in a relationship with an uncertain future, but Jadzia teases him that they've established at least one thing for certain. The woman on his mind ain't Grilka no longer. At that, Worf throws back his head and gives one of those rare booming laughs for the TOS ending we were all looking for.
Oh, that ending is
and we
awful.
The closing credits.
The laugh break ending is bad, but...
It's not as bad as the TOS ones, though. It was all right.
Well, no, it wasn't the whole damn cast on the bridge doing it, but oof, that's a weird laugh ending. Also, go on, Matt. Go on.
Just to go to your point about your feelings on Worf, Matt, what I do like about Deep Space Nine, especially with his scenes with Dax, is like right here, too. Dax calls him out on his crap. Like, Worf acts like he's like the traditional Klingon and very, conservative, quote unquote. And she's like, you ain't traditional.
I think, to be honest, Dax makes Worf's character better.
Yeah, I
She
agree.
softens him up a little bit. Yeah, he goes back a little bit of the old Worf in that episode where they're on Risa. But I really think that the Dax. I think we talk about relationships all the time in Star Trek. Some good ones, some really horrible ones. I legitimately feel this is probably one of the best ones, and I think this is far better than Kira and Odo will be. Later down in this series, but this one I could buy compared to, and maybe B'Elanna and Tom Paris was another one I could buy, but there's not too many other ones in Star Trek. This one was good.
I like Cisco's relationship, but to that point, and it's not a criticism of this episode necessarily, but I would have liked to have seen a little bit more foreshadowing of this character pairing. I mean, I guess maybe there's a little bit here and there, but I actually forgot that this was the episode where this pairing starts out with, because I was expecting to have it hinted at a little bit more, and that when it did kind of like, oh wait, this is the episode where that happens, I was kind of surprised because there wasn't much of a real groundwork leading up to this.
I don't know.
That's
if
interesting, 'cause
I don't agree with that, because I mean, I feel like when they're first introduced in Way of the Warrior, they kind of they give each other this look, and they spend a lot of their free time together sparring. So I think that's plenty of groundwork that's been laid out.
I agree with Hanson on this. I thought, and I'll admit, Sponsky, I too forgot. I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. This is the episode where they get together. I thought maybe it was a few more episodes down the line, but I do think they did lay the groundwork, and it wasn't a Chakotay 7 type of relationship where you're, where the hell did that one come from, right? Or, so this one,
no, it's not that
they
bad.
did well.
But for what it's worth, Terry Farrell, Memory Alpha has interviews of her saying that she was caught off guard to a degree with this as well. So it's like, it's nothing horrible in that. Yeah, you can go back and see that it's there, but it still would be. I think they could have done a little bit more to make it a little bit smoother, but again, none of this is.
I don't know how much smoother it can get, to be honest. I mean, I respect her point of view, but at the same time, I mean, she's not going to remember the episodes and the moments that we do, because she's an actress trying to go from week to week with some very heavy dialogue. So, I mean,
but to be fair to her character, if she sees something she wants, this is now the mature Dax. We know what her character is, and she is what she is, and she's a very strong opinion-based person that's not going to be all that shy about letting you know that. So if she has had these thoughts all this time, why would she, and keep it consistent with that character, have it like not be there this whole time? Because we do see it in this episode, she is laying it on pretty thick, but that character would have had that on pretty thick up through this point.
See, but I don't think so, and here's why. I think that given that Dax has, not Jadzia, but Dax has been in a ton of relationships over the course of its lifetimes, I think that she was playing the long game. I think that it was on purpose when they first met, that she was attracted to him, but wasn't going to, pursue him so heavily right away. She spends time with him. She gets to know him a little bit more. He gets to know her, and they're now at a point in the relationship or their friendship, whatever you want to call it, where he's been on the station. She's known him for about a year at this point, and now it's time where she is electing at this point to go ahead and serious. So I think it's all conscious on her part, which would be in fitting with her character.
I'll see. That is what we are to believe, but again, my interpretation of her character is that she wouldn't do that. She would size him up instantly coming off the ship and go, oh, I mean, his skull isn't transparent, but I like him. I'm going after him.
Yeah, but we've never seen what she would be like with like a. And don't tell me Meridian, because that episode sucks. But we never see what she would be like with a series of relationships. She's kind of been like a player for a while, and we never see what she's like when she thinks like, oh, maybe this could be a little bit more than a couple of night stand or a booty call.
Well, I don't know. Let us know in feedback. Break the tie, since our other two gents here are quiet.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think they sowed the seeds well enough. In fact, I was going to say I had the opposite. Like, I thought that this would have happened a lot earlier. I guess to Smonsky, you would think that that's what Jadzia would do. But I felt like she did, and then they just went away from it for a while, and then they brought it back here. So I think they laid the groundwork and then brought it back. But it does seem strange when you mix in the thoughts of, like, they threw in these weird scenes with some other people that never pair up, that will never come to fruition, just as a joke. So
No, but
the
whole episode of looking for Parmak in all the wrong places. It's every one of these stories has to do with some kind of love. And in Quark's case, it's physical love. In Kira's and O'Brien's cases, it's emotional love, and to a certain extent, it's also the start of an emotional connection with Worf and Dax. So it all fits in with the theme.
I think that's a good point. And we never see Grilka again, do we? Which kind of goes to your point that was strictly physical. That's all Quark was caring about. And I think you make a really good point there on those three different types that they displayed in this episode.
And it wasn't just Quark on that. I mean, Grilka came there to use him every bit as much as he was going to use her.
Right, but
he went there for the financial stuff and then to get some, I suppose.
Yeah, I was gonna say no one got screwed, they did get screwed, but
a lot of people did actually.
I was gonna say nobody got cheated out of expectations. I mean, what I'm saying is Quark and Grilka agreed that it was going to be strictly physical, and they went into it being strictly physical.
The bodyguard kind of got royals.
I don't know. I think they didn't just agree to physical. I think they agreed to a lot more than that. And he even said, "I really like her," to Dax. That whole scene right there seems to indicate to me that there might be a continuing relationship, even though
fairly genuine, I would think. But
did he balance her books in the end?
Well, he balanced,
a little more than her
books.
He balanced more than her books.
We all made the same joke simultaneously.
But the thing is too is like even with all the tradition and all the rigmarole that Quark had to go through, with Klingons being as over the top and ritualistic as they are, there has to be a whole drawn out ritual for a booty call. It. So I think we just saw
booty calls. Apparently, that weird line where Dax was implying that traditional Klingons would have themselves getting married after that. So the booty calls don't exist, which seems very weird to me. You would think the Klingons would be all about booty calls, battle lust, and then just pair up, everybody have a good time. And then the wine and song comes after that. So it's weird that it's all, one and done, get married in Klingons. That didn't feel right, but whatever.
And I'd just like to add, after seeing Quark once again in that Klingon uniform, I don't know why we did not consider him to go on that mission in Apocalypse Rising. Just wanted to throw that out there.
Too much extensive surgery. I mean, Bashir can only do so much.
I think Ferengi are pretty connected to their ears. They would not want them removed, I'm betting. Since they function for every important bodily function for a Ferengi, I guess. More importantly,
I'd be wearing a helmet if I was Quark in that battle too, wouldn't you?
That's right. Blair, importantly, is there an action figure for Quark in that costume?
No, there is not.
That's a travesty.
There is a figure of Cisco in a Klingon uniform.
I bought it the other day off eBay. I didn't.
Did you?
I didn't mean to. I was just gonna watch it, but I apparently clicked that I was whatever on it. My wife goes, "Did you pay $7 for an action figure?" And I was like, "I don't think I did."
Little buzzed.
Sure enough, I did. We won't talk about that.
All right, there you go. That's a risky run going on eBay.
So
final thoughts and ratings.
Yeah, that ends the episode. So we're gonna do final thoughts and ratings. Blair, we'll start with you. What are your final thoughts and ratings for looking for Parmak in all the wrong places?
Well, I think we already talked about it at the beginning that this is one of those episodes where we've gone heavy the last couple of weeks. We're going to go really heavy next week. I don't mind where this fit in. It had to fit in somewhere. It's a fun episode. We're not dealing with a 5-star episode. This isn't anything groundbreaking outside of the Worf and Dax relationship being cemented, which I did like. It was just a really fun episode. I laughed out loud while watching it. I also thought you would say, "Oh yes, that's right. I forgot all about that," and had a good chuckle over a lot of the things. So um, again, it was great to see Worf and Dax together. I thought Bashir had some great funny moments. The O'Brien Kira scenes again, real but funny. A little uncomfortable at that end there. Maybe I disagree a little bit on the way we kind of interpreted the end, but I did like how they walked away. I would have been horribly disappointed had they, you know, done anything with that. I just don't think you could have. So I'm glad they didn't. So, overall, not a bad episode. We're not dealing with our ones or twos. We're not dealing with a 5 either. So I will score this a 3.0 weirdo relationship type episode.
Very good. Chris, what are your thoughts?
All right, so I think this is an interesting episode. I think it's well written. I like the through lines about love and the different types of love and the different ideas about love. I think the acting is really great. I think the comedy works for me, but I can imagine that if the comedy doesn't work for you, this episode would be a slog. There's not a lot of meat here, but there is some intriguing character development, some fun moments. This isn't one of those episodes that I would watch over and over again, but if I was watching through chronologically, I certainly wouldn't skip this episode. I like it a lot. I will watch it in the future again. I give this a solid 4 out of 5. Sultry sonnets of being silkily and spellbindingly smitten and sidelined by sonorous sacraments of association.
Okay, Matt, tell us how the Klingons weighed down this episode for you.
That's absolutely the thing. You mentioned it earlier on that so much of this will depend on whether you're in on that joke. And unfortunately, 60% or whatever this episode is weighed towards the Klingon story. And I just inherently don't find the portrayal of Klingons all that interesting, even most of the time. And this unfortunately kind of depends on making a joke of that. And the content's just not all that interesting to me. Now, it's not fair to say that it's a slog to Chris's description. It might be where I'm at. So it's fine. I don't really love or truly hate those parts. It's just kind of uninteresting to me. And the comedy is fine for the most part. Only a couple really strong hits, and the rest is just fine. The B storyline is still just a B, but a fine B storyline too. So it's interesting. Blair seemingly enjoyed this episode quite a bit, gave it 3 stars. I'm coming down on just its average episode that I personally am not going to be doing, back flips over at any point because of the subject matter. But we end up coming to the same place, and I'm going to give it just a regular 3-star review.
And as for me, I mean, this episode is fun. No, I wouldn't do backflips over it either, but I also think that this episode does quite a bit in the character department, and it's just lighthearted. It was nice to review this episode for this week because this is my first real week of not doing any schoolwork, and I'm finally off for the summer. So this was a nice kickoff. So maybe that's biasing my review a little bit, but I do like this episode quite a bit. The Klingon stuff does work for me. I think. I mean, sadly, if Klingons don't work for you, then I don't know how you would possibly write them at this point, except for maybe some of the new stuff that they're going to do in Discovery. I don't know how you write them because I think that if they commit to serious dramatics, it's going to be unsatisfying for you, Matt. And if they go for comedy, I mean, it might be better, but it's still concerning the Klingons. So, I think that, sadly, you might just have to grin and bear it through the Klingon stuff, but
except for Martok, he breaks the mold.
But we're gonna have a lot of Klingon stuff with Martok, so I mean, I'd be interested to hear your points as we go forward. Let's just say that. But for me, the Klingon stuff works. The B story was fun and realistic. I had a thoroughly good time, so I'm gonna give this 4.25 stars. And that's going to wrap it up for our discussion for Looking for Parbach in All the Wrong Places. Now we are going to jump over to your feedback from our episode on The Muse.
Yeah, and we're going to start with a little bit of Kieran feedback. And Kieran thought that this was a dreadful episode. Go figure. I'm the only one who likes this episode in all of the world. He thinks that you're right, Matt, that even though this is not a new concept, that this should have been a little more nuanced and good. He also makes a really fantastic allusion to the Saved by the Bell episode where Jesse goes on caffeine pills and connects that to Jake on the Muse. So he thinks that this is schlocky, terrible, awful, and you should go read his entire review at forum.trekmatefamily.com because it's Kieran tends to be, and really good stuff, nice insights on why this episode just absolutely sucks. So next.
Well, next we get a forum post from Dan, who apparently or Dan Hitch, and he's falling a little bit behind on our feedback in pods. And much to his delight, he comes back to this episode, where at first he really wasn't going to write much, but apparently he got taken over by this crazy alien lady. And in his great writing form that you can see on the forum, he actually decided to combine this lovely episode with Sons of Moog and calls it Fallen Sons. And yeah, he just basically does a whole rewrite of that episode and combines the two, with Kern wanting to die, Troy being pregnant, Jake being attacked, so on and so forth. So it is quite an interesting read, and I strongly suggest you go on there and take a look, because he talks about the whole reset button and Jake's addiction and all that good stuff. So yeah, go take a look at that one, because apparently he typed it on his iPhone as well.
Yeah, Blair, you weren't on the episode for the Muse. You got lucky that week.
Oh yes.
Yeah, speaking of slogs, that one I think took a few sittings to get through.
I'm going back to watch it next week, guys. It's gonna be fun.
I thought after the UPs
It's
we were done
incredible.
with the Muse,
It's
but
amazing.
no.
So excited about it.
It's a gift that keeps on giving.
Indeed,
Yeah,
it is.
sadly.
It definitely makes me want to write great things to fill the void for the terrible things that episode brought about.
Well, speaking of good writing, we move over to our emails with Stephen Banvard. Brings up an interesting perspective in that when he watched it, he, I think, very justifiably would have guessed that the A and B storylines were related, and that somehow Loxana, in her pregnant and mentally stressed state, somehow manifested a psionic vampire. I mean, that kind of makes the kooky amount of sense. And he brings up a very valid question. Right. Would the episode have been stronger had the two storylines been connected?
I think so.
Yes, I think so. But it depends completely on whether we would have had a better ending, because we hated the non-endings that was connected with that. So you would think having her have some satisfaction, or with her marriage or medical whatever, that would have given possibly a more satisfying ending to the succubus angle, right?
Right.
So, but he does bring up one other question I couldn't answer offhand. How many times have we seen good crossover directly connected A and B storylines where it has actually worked beyond just a thematic connection, a true,
where they've intersected?
Right, an actual plot-driven connection between A and B, and I couldn't think of anything.
I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but that's something that I have to look through episode names.
He just brought up Culus as his one suggestion. Beyond that, man, I couldn't think. They seem to be like plug-and-play stories,
right?
Often.
I don't know. I have to think about it.
Yeah, I can't think. Culus is a fantastic example, but Yeah, I can't think of much offhand either.
I mean, often enough they're on location and they come back to the station and they're not really connected in anything other than the most cursory way. So yeah, interesting. That's good feedback, and that poses the question that's kind of stumped us all. So by all means, if you have an answer, let us know in the feedback and prove us wrong if we can't think of anything on off the top of our heads.
Yeah, and please do. We love hearing from you, and there's so many ways to get a hold of us. You can email us at up2podcast@gmail.com. Leave a comment on our forums at forum.checkmatefamily.com. Follow us on Twitter at UP2podcast and like us on Facebook at facebook.com/upperpylon2. Also, 5-star iTunes reviews. They help out the show and get the word out there as we enter into season 5. And we've got some great stuff coming up with the heating up of the Dominion War. We've got Trials and Tribulations later this season. Lots of fun, and we hope that you can join us, and 5-star reviews help us get there. So we really appreciate you for that. Also, we are all personally on Twitter. I am at mhansen0207, HANSEN, talking about sci-fi, talking about the Marvel Cinematic Universe, talking about all sorts of things. Probably the TV that I need to catch up on now that I'm no longer in school and have missed an entire season of television. So whatever it is, we'll come find me there and we'll chat.
I can be found on Twitter at ProSubZero, where I'm getting into the new Netflix series, The Keepers. Oh boy, is it a good show. Incredibly heavy documentary. I recommend it, but it's not an easy watch.
I can be reached at Medic1849, where again, it's hockey playoffs still while you're listening to this. And you know what? For all those people that are Star Trek fans and hockey fans, I am retweeting a lot of hockey-related Star Trek GIFs. And I've shared some of those with Smonsky, which, you know, a little bit Leaf bias, but still.
Yeah, you wouldn't have thought there were that many out there, but there you go. There are.
And Chris, when is that Golden Girls rewatch starting?
Man, all right. So I'm on my last week this week. This will come out 2 weeks from now, so I should be a week into it by the time this comes out, right? I do have a lot of work. I got a new job, so I'm moving positions. So I got some early summer work, but I'm still going to be able to do it, I think, and it's going to be fun. Maybe 2 a week. We'll see. I can't wait. I'm excited.
Me too. And that'll be at Carnivore J. So thank you so much for joining us this week. It was a lot of fun. Next week, we go back with really heavy emotional war drama in the Vietnam parable that is Nor the Battle to the Strong.
This is Blair from Ontario, Canada. Until next time.
Don't always long for the forbidden things and desire what is denied us. Boundaries help us flourish. This is Chris in South Carolina.
Well, you're going to be in trouble because we're going to steal your air. I'm Matt in Buffalo.
And this is Matt from Arizona, closing hailing frequencies. Docking clamps are open and you are cleared for departure.